Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts, in the shadow of the Great Blue Hills. We are so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Amanda Hauser. She is here to celebrate her new book, Impish. Before we invite Amanda in to celebrate Impish, we have a brand new certified great read to celebrate. That's right. The name of our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read is Stargazer, and it is written by Prue McDonald. It is such a fun book. We think that it is absolutely magical. We love the beautiful illustrations, and we love the beautiful story. Stargazer opens up a world of imagination for young kids. Imagining things you cannot see, believing in goodness and make-believe are all healthy for the brain of a young child. It helps their intuition and creativity to grow, so they will grow up to be creative, positive problem solvers as adults. A great book to share the magic of nature and imagination. That's Stargazer. Throughout Stargazer, children will be captivated by the colorful illustrations while engaged in a story that teaches them all about how a garden grows and the different creatures they can find in the garden. Stargazer also shares a meaningful lesson about taking time to notice the nature that surrounds us. The book and artwork are some of the most engaging we've ever found and draw the reader into the fantastic realm of flower sprites and magical creatures. Check it out today. You can read our full review at readingwithyourkids.com. Congratulations once again to Prue McDonald for her latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read, Stargazer. Joining us right now from the great state of Indiana, she is with us to celebrate Christmas. Well, it's early to celebrate Christmas, but we're celebrating a great new holiday tradition. Please welcome to the show the author and creator of Impish the Elf, Amanda Hauser. Amanda, how are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
I am wonderful. Amanda and I just had this great little chat about Indiana. I had the pleasure of being out there this past fall and had a great time, met some great people, experienced the wonders of the timeline in Indiana. What a great place. What a great place to grow up and raise a family.
Absolutely. In fact, I think I can credit all of my quote-unquote creative genius from growing up in the middle of nowhere, because what are you left with except your imagination when you live in the middle of thousands of acres of cornfields?
That's right. You know, I don't know if where folks are. I know my wife, after we got married, the first time she went to Pennsylvania was after my son was born, and she was on maternity leave. And so we went out, took my son out, had a little tour of central and western Pennsylvania, and she was blown away. She had never seen acres and acres and acres of cornfields before. And this last summer, we went down to Costa Rica and saw an even more immense plantation of bananas. And I had never seen, it's like these banana trees for like miles and miles and miles. I think people who grow up in the city have no idea just how vast a farm and farmland can be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I spent every waking hour from the time the sun rose to the time the sun set just outside and making things and creating things. Of course, not only was this several decades ago, but we had no internet. We had no cable TV. The great outdoors was our cable TV. Our imaginations were our version of the internet. Mm-hmm. We just explored and created and invented all day long.
Now, before I asked you what inspired you to create Impish, I'm just curious, is that, and I know you're not living in the middle of the cornfields anymore, but have we lost that? Are kids growing up in those very rural communities still getting out there, or are they locked to their screens the same way as city kids are?
I think it's a hybrid. I think it's actually, I think children have more of a choice now. I feel like I had no choice. That was my only option, was to get out and explore and to create things on my own. Children now have that choice, and they're able to do both. I think that in the Midwest, and I'm sure this is true all across the United States, but I think in the Midwest, part of our culture is to just enjoy the great outdoors. It's what parents really encourage and want for their children. And we are just blessed to be geographically located in an area that allows us to do that and to feel very safe. I grew up in a town of 5,000 people, and it was nothing to be out and about from sunrise to sunset, and our parents didn't have to worry about who we were with or what we were doing. And I think a lot of that culture still rings true today in the small towns across rural Indiana, across the rural Midwest. But I do think society is evolving and changing, and that children in general gravitate toward technology and what they have available to them that they didn't have just a few short years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny you're talking about being out from sunrise to sunset. We were out too, but we were kicked out of the house. Like, get out. We don't want to see you until it's time for dinner. When the street lights come on, then you come home.
Right. Exactly. We, our telltale sign of when it was time to come in is when we started getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. That was when it was time to come inside.
Well, tell us about Impish the Elf. This is a great holiday series. Book 1 was published last year, and Book 2 is just about to be released. So tell us about Impish, and tell us about this new book that's going to be available.
Well, I have to start at the beginning to do all that.
Yes.
I have to tell you that I'm a mother of 8, believe it or not. 8 kiddos, ages 21 to 2. And the single best thing about being a mother to children, that many children, any number of children, is keeping magic a part of their childhood. I have always thought that is just, we have so many responsibilities to help them become the best versions of themselves, to push them academically and help them excel athletically, and to have, great poise and conduct in public. And that's also so important as a parent, but it's equally important to allow them to experience being a kid. And part of being a kid is just embracing magic and the spirit of Christmas. The memories that I have of my childhood fall into 2 distinct categories, like being outside and being adventurous, and Christmas. Like, really, those were the things that just really stand out in my memory today. And as I am raising my children, I want to instill in them that love of the holiday, that magic that you really only feel in your gut, one time a year. So about 15 years ago, when my oldest son was around kindergarten age, I became a little nervous because I was sending him into the public school system. And you know that as a parent, when you send your child to school, they're getting the education that the teacher gives, and they're also getting the education that they get on the school bus and from their peers, things that you can't control. And so I was very afraid that he would be exposed to things at an early age that I was not ready for him to be exposed to. And I was always so fearful that somebody was going to tell him at school, like, oh my goodness, there's no Santa Claus, or there's something, something about Christmas that would just shatter. That really worried me. And so I instantly developed a relationship with Impish the Elf. Impish the Elf started visiting our house around the time my oldest son was in kindergarten. And she would magically wrap all these gifts that came from Santa Claus. But she was true to her name, because in a sneaky fashion, she would never put name tags on anything. So we would have all of these gifts under the tree, and no one knew which presents belonged to who. And the only way you could figure out which present belonged to who on Christmas morning was to follow the clues that Impish left you in your stocking. So Impish has, she started doing all this sneaky little stuff. And what do you know? The kids loved it. And next Christmas, it was a hit again. And the next Christmas, it was a hit again. But Impish, being the creative little elf that she is, every year the clues changed. So you couldn't wake up the next Christmas and know exactly what was going on because she changed the game on you every single year. And here we are almost 15 years later, and Impish is still visiting our family. And the schemes and the themes and her tricks and her clues have become more elaborate and more elaborate every year. So last year, I just decided, after so many people had inquired about this tradition of Impish and how Impish was coming to our family, that I was absolutely going to make this available to everybody by sharing Impish's story in a story format for children. So I wrote the first Impish book that introduces Impish to families and why Impish decided to start visiting families. And the books are written in prose, so they are rhyming, but it also introduces families to the clue of the year. So every year, there is a new book with a new clue of the year that year for Impish. So the story is for children to enjoy and to discover what Impish's clue of the year is. And the theme itself is for parents to enjoy and encourage it, a new tradition in their family. So I have a backlog of about 15 years worth of Impish story and clues of the year that I'm going to sprinkle out. And these first 2 years, I've just started with one book each year. And I'm hoping to grow that to 2 or more books a year so that families can grow along with this tradition and collect the whole series of books. I have also this year just been adding supplemental kind of different guides of how to implement the clue of the year, different products to go along with the book. So every year it's kind of growing too as a brand.
That's so cool. Now, so many things I want to talk about and kind of unwrap, to use the Impish theory here, the Impish theme. As a business, and because we talk to a lot of authors here, this is a great idea. Because Christmas, it comes around every year. So, a book that, there's so many books, you write it and you get that run and kind of loses steam. If it doesn't get picked up, then, oh well. But a Christmas book, just like Christmas music, there's going to be a new audience for it every single year.
Absolutely. And what I love about this tradition for our family is that it really is a tradition. You build on it. It becomes better every year. It becomes refreshed every year. And even though it's the same concept in that Impish visits us and she doesn't put names on presents and there's clues in the stocking, those clues evolve every year with a new theme. So, for example, this year, Impish at our house implemented a secret spy theme. So children had to use decoder rings to decode all sorts of secret encrypted messages on gifts to figure out which presents belong to them. So we spent all morning decoding with our decoder rings, and it was delightful. So, it's really fun to have something to look forward to all year long. I literally start planning Christmas on December 26th.
Now, I wonder, you said that at some point you decided, after doing this for a decade with your family, you decided to share this with other families. Was it the case where your kids are going into school or going to dance or soccer and saying, Impish came over our house and, did this, and their kids, their friends are going home, and you're getting calls from the mother, who's this Impish and why is my life being turned upside down?
Exactly, that darn Impish. Can you believe? Yeah, that's exactly what happened. After every Christmas break, the kids flood back into the classrooms, and what's the first thing the teachers ask when they get back? How was break? How was Christmas? What did you do over break? And my kids would share in their community circle times with their teachers what happened in this clue of the year, and I would get emails from the teachers because, of course, I'm a former elementary teacher. I speak teacher, so they were coming to me wanting details about this, and other parents were wanting details, and the joy of social media, you could post a couple things and people, instantly reach back out to you like, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's with the decoder rings in the Christmas pictures? What's happening? happening? And, word of mouth, and it just travels. And after about the 50th person at church said, Amanda, when are you going to write a book? I was like, okay, it's time to write the books.
Well, we experienced that on a smaller scale. My wife's family is originally from Puerto Rico, and with a lot of Latin American countries, they celebrate Three Kings Day. The Feast of the Epiphany is a big deal. And the Three Kings, if you leave grass in a shoebox under your bed for the camels that the Three Kings ride on, then the Three Kings will feed the grass to the camels and leave a gift in the shoebox. So my kids were going in just, talking about their great Three Kings Day gifts, and their friends are going home, and now all of a sudden we're getting phone calls. What do you mean I got to buy another present for my kid? Christmas is over.
Yes. You know what? Here's the beauty of this, because I think some people, this is the biggest thing that I don't want to use the word fight, but that I'm up against. Is people are like, oh, is it like Elf on the Shelf? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, not at all. It's not like Elf on the Shelf. This isn't something that you have to remember to do every night for a month. This is something completely different. And it all started with the fact that I just wanted my children to experience something so magical. I wanted them to experience, wow, this is something so cool that who could ever have dreamt up this besides a magical Christmas elf? There's just no way this could ever happen. Mm-hmm. And then when it does, they just get that tingling in their bellies that makes them so excited and so hyped on anticipation every Christmas. And what I love has been some of the best side effects of this, things such as, fewer presents go a longer way. Mm-hmm. We're doing so much more with so much less. And it's part of the presentation, and how special you must be that an elf at the North Pole took this much time to create this elaborate scheme for you this year that's different from all other years. And not only that, what we have also noticed is that gone are the days where, you hear the pitter patter of feet running into the living room and ripping open presents that took, months or weeks or days to compile, and it's all gone in 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. Now as a family, we can get up, we can enjoy a story together. We discover the clue of the year that Impish has left us in our stockings. As a family, we work together to solve the puzzle, to solve the clue of the year. We sort the gifts into piles to figure out whose are whose. We unravel those clues together. And then one by one, we solve those clues, and we open up presents one by one. And what could have been completely decimated in 5 minutes takes us hours. Mm-hmm. And we just soak up that family time, which is so valuable to us, especially as a family of 10. We just never get that time together. We're going 1,000 different directions, 1,000 different times of year. And so this is the one day where we can just really sit and soak it in. It's kind of like we're being present in the presence. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, as I'm listening to this, one of the things that's really obvious to me is that the focus on your Christmas morning is what it should be, which is family, and spending that time together, and helping your kids realize that the best present of all is family and that love that you experience together. And I just love that. And I think that's the real story here, is that Impish, yeah, it's really fun, but it can really help families just connect with each other. And like you said, take something that normally is 5 minutes a mess, and it's like that sugar buzz. The kid has a soda, and hyped up, and now I'm crashed. This is just like, it's extended. It really makes the holiday a really special time.
Oh, absolutely. And I think if you even look back at some of the most traditional Christmas gifts that our parents and our grandparents gave, what are those? Books. Mm-hmm. Reintroduce a written book that's it's not a Kindle book. It's not, an ebook. It's something that you can actually tangibly touch and sit on a couch together and read and explore. What a gift, you know, and I don't just mean my book, although I would love for people to enjoy my book. I mean, any book. And as a teacher, it just warms my heart when people can realize that the written word is just such a gift. It's so powerful. It's so moving. And even if it's over a jovial topic, like an elf, it still is a craft. It's an art. It's something that we can enjoy, and we can leave our LOL and IDK lives, you know, our text message lives for just a little bit and enjoy the craft and go back to the craft of really well-written literature or even children's books.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we talk about here a lot on the show, and I just realized we haven't mentioned it for a while, the most important thing in our kids' lives is us. The thing that they want more than anything else, you know, especially our little ones, but even our kids as they get into their teenage years, in their adult years, they want our attention. They want our approval because we are the most important people in their lives, especially when they're young. And when someone so important takes the time to spend real time with them, to sit down and solve a puzzle or to decode, something that Impish left, to decode that clue. That is something that's going to last forever. And I think it's such a gift that you've created for families.
Well, thank you. And you're absolutely right. My children really do look forward to that time every year. They really start talking about it, you know, in October. Oh, I wonder what Impish is going to do. Mom and Dad, it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. And, you know, we have a son who's in the military. And so, like, we don't get to see him very much. And they know he's going to be home during the holidays and he gets to be a part of it, you know. So we get so excited. But the fun part about this, too, that I don't want to be lost on families is that big kids love this, too, because big kids love an excuse to be a little kid at Christmas again. Mm-hmm. And they also have a very deep appreciation for the effort put in, you know, whereas the younger sets of children really just enjoy the frivolity and the fun and the togetherness. The older children, it's not lost on them. They have a deep appreciation for what's happening and the time spent developing it. And then the time spent, you know, decoding it and figuring it all out and working together. And I love it. You know, we have an interesting dynamic in my family because we have, you know, a 21-year-old and a 2-year-old. So we can, you know, but I love watching as a parent. I love watching the older kids help the younger kids, which they don't really get a whole lot of time to do. So it's so fun just to spend that time together to really, you're right. It really is a gift of time, which is probably our most valuable resource.
Absolutely. Well, I know folks are going to want to take some time to find out more about Impish the Elf, find out more about Amanda Hauser. Where can they go online to be part of this great new tradition?
Wonderful. ImpishTheElf.com is my website, and I'm in the process of updating it, making it a little more user-friendly. I do have a blog site at ImpishTheElf.com where I kind of give tricks of the trade, some implementation ideas. You can always reach me personally for guest author visits at your school at ImpishTheElf@gmail.com. And they can schedule visits there. You can also correspond with me through that email and reach me at any time. I also just encourage people to really get a taste of who I am as a mother, as a professional educator, as an author by following me on Instagram at Amanda_McElwain_Hauser, which is the name on my Impish the Elf book. Likewise, you can find Impish the Elf on Amazon. You can find her at Barnes & Noble. And she's also at authorhouse.com.
Awesome. And the great thing is we're coming out of the pandemic, and there are a lot of independent bookstores that have really felt the pressure during this time. You can go to your small independent bookstore, and you can, they probably don't have Impish on their shelf yet, maybe, but if they don't, you can ask for it, And then if 2 or 3 folks from your community go and they ask, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, there might be something to this Impish thing. We got to get some of these books into our little indie bookstore. So if it's not there, give a call, ask for it. They'll be able to order it and bring it to their store.
Absolutely. And you know what the beauty of being a small brand right now is that I would love for Impish to write individual messages to children inside books. If please reach out to me, I can connect parents with Impish very easily. So if you have a special message or a special project involving Impish the Elf, I would love to hear from families.
Wow. We want to encourage everybody to check it out. impishtheelf.com.
Correct.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Impish the Elf, Amanda Hauser. Amanda, thanks so much for being part of the show.
I have had a blast, and I cannot wait to meet all the new people that have been your true listeners.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be our friend Leslie Wall. She'll be in here to share some great books that we can sit down and read or co-read with our teens and tweens. Start our family book club. What a great tradition. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Earlier in the day, we let you know that Prue McDonald's book Stargazer is our latest Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. The Certified Great Read program is a fantastic program that's helped a whole lot of authors help their books stand out from the crowd of books that are published every single month. If you are the author and you're frustrated at the fact that all the traditional means of promoting your books, school visits, library visits, book signings, that those aren't available during the pandemic, you might want to check this out. You can go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the Author Services button at the top of the page. It'll tell you all about this fantastic program. Speaking of fantastic, we need to thank the fantastic people who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, let's start with our guest, Amanda Hauser. Please check out Impish. Also want to thank my incredible team, starting with my producer, Fatima Khan, my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. But of course, most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.